Welcome to our daily reflection for this Saturday, August 3rd. And today we have the charge against Jeremiah, who's been seized and thrown into prison. And they're plotting to execute Jeremiah. That's what his enemies want to do. And they charge him with basically with treason for speaking against Jerusalem and the temple and the nation. And so you have this, in a sense, false patriotism. Because in the sense of false patriotism puts the nation above everything else and above God. Now, there is a true and authentic patriotism, which is part of the virtue of justice. We owe a certain debt to our nation, to our country, because they provide goods and services to us, and we have a loyalty in justice. We owe them. But we have the greatest debt of loyalty and the debt of justice to God. And so even in the Pledge of Allegiance, which comes out of a Christian context, it says one nation under God, right? So it's putting the nation under God. Well, false patriotism puts the nation above God. It becomes the replacement for God. That's always the danger. The state can become so powerful that it sees itself as all-powerful, as absolute, and it's relative, and it's not all-powerful. Only God is omnipotent, not the state. But the state can exercise that kind of omnipotent power over its subjects, but in doing so, it's acting unjustly. And so those prophets who call out a nation and a people for their injustice and for their not following God would not be unpatriotic. It's actually true patriotism, because they're trying to realign the nation and its values to what is best for the nation. And so here Jeremiah gives us a great model of speaking the truth and yet suffering for that, right? And then, we have a continuation of what we had yesterday with Psalm 69, again about a righteous person who's suffering. And then we get to the gospel, and speaking of righteous people who suffer, we have John the Baptist, who preaches the truth to the king, and he doesn't like that truth, and he ultimately ends up executing John the Baptist. And so now, what looks like the nation being omnipotent, right? The wicked king gets his way. That's what happens if you cross the state, you die. And yet, we know in the Christian gospel that the fear of death, as it mentions in the Epistle to the Hebrews, is taken away because Jesus conquers death and rises from the dead, and he grants great victory and vindication to his saints, like John the Baptist, who are raised from the dead. And so what we have to see is the supernatural end of what happens here. And even Herod says in his conscience that Jesus acting and doing great things after he's executed John the Baptist is John the Baptist raised from the dead. Well, he's wrong, but there's a truth that those who die for the truth and are faithful to God will rise from the dead, and those who are wicked will be judged. And so that is our hope, and that is the gospel. So today we see what is a false patriotism and what an authentic patriotism is. To remember, whatever our nation is, it's a nation under God, not above God. May the Lord bless and keep you.
This daily reflection is brought to you thanks to the generous support of the Mission Circle. Join the Mission Circle to help Catholics worldwide understand, live, and share their faith. Sign up at missioncircle.org today.